There is a hidden history that's been deliberately obfuscated from the peoples of the world, and that's why I am on the trail of the Nephilim.
The Genesis 6 narrative states that the Nephilim are on the earth in those days and also afterwards. If that's true, can we find evidence that corroborates this? I'm L.A. Marzulli. Join me as we go on the trail of the Nephilim.
We're going to be talking about the elongated skulls of Paracas, and I'll get into that and so much more. But first, a word from our trusted sponsor. Excess belly fat has been deemed the most dangerous fat of them all, as it's linked to so many health issues. The reason being, excess belly fat grows deep in the abdominal cavity and puts pressure on some of the body's most vital organs. That's one of the reasons why myself, along with so many people, are beginning to turn to this amazing new substance, which is thoughtfully formulated with science-backed ingredients that promote reduced fat storage, help to speed up the breakdown of fat, support weight management, reduce cravings, and boost metabolism. Folks, the best part I love is that you can get 51% off for the rest of the month or until they sell out, whichever comes first. Get yours now by going to trimwithla.com. Once again, that's trimwithla.com. Trimwithla.com. I'm going to give this 30 days. I'll report back to you and we'll see what it does. Thanks for tuning in. Really appreciate it. Hit the subscribe button below and comment if you'd like. It's always great to read the comments, and sometimes I actually go there and read them. But I'm so busy these days trying to get these UFO films out before the end of the year. That was my marching orders back in March, and my business partner and I, Gil Zimmerman and myself were working feverishly on this. Gil's working on number 7, I'm number 8, and Josh Peck is number 9 in the series. We're the only Christian ministry that will have 9 films in the UFO series when we're done. I think it's pretty complete. We get into everything from Close Encounters of the First Kind all the way up to the abduction phenomena. That's Close Encounters of the Fourth and Fifth Kind, to the breeding program, cattle mutilations. It's all there. But here's the deal, folks. I want to talk about this 2,000-year-old mummy skull that we got to unwrap. It was actually 1,935 years. We did carbon-14 dating on it. Interestingly enough, the lab that did the carbon-14 dating will no longer do carbon-14 dating for me because it's pseudoscience. So let me understand something. I present them with cloth from a mummy skull that we unwrap in Peru, and they take it and they run it through their machines, and they give me a date of 1,935 years. Now, what is pseudo-archaeology about that? Why is that labeled pseudo-archaeology when I just tell you what the machine at their lab tells me? I'm not making this stuff up. I mean, here's the sample from the mummy wrappings. Here it is. We put it in the machine. It spews out a date, basically 2,000 years old. The skull is greatly elongated. The eye sockets, the orbits here, are 25 to 30% larger than a normal human being. Greatly elongated skull. The smoking gun here is the position of the foramen magnum. Kind of hard to see here, so I'm going to grab the other skull and show you. And I want to thank the late Joe Taylor for actually modeling these. It was Joe that went down to Paracas with us, and the baby, this one here, was very, very difficult to mold. Once again, that's what it looks like. So, I've talked about this before, but I was just on several shows and people always express an interest. So you'll notice that the skull is incredibly elongated. You'll also notice the orbits are 25 to 30% larger. The pupillary distance here is about 45 millimeters. It should be like 65, so they're very narrow, which according to the optometrist that we interviewed, he stated on the record that these entities more than likely had night vision. Remember, we know that their dwellings are underground. The Horites, which are one of the Nephilim tribes found in the Levant during the conquest of the Promised Land, when Joshua and Caleb come into the Promised Land, the Horites are there. Is it possible that they vacated the Promised Land? We know that there was a stele. And I want to thank Mondo Gonzalez and Tim Alberino, who made me aware of this years ago now. But there was a stele on the coast of Africa that said this: "We are they who fled from Joshua the robber, the son of Nun." And what is that stele doing on the north coast of Africa? And you remember, Procopius was the one who talks about that in his historic writings, which are, millennia old. So we know that there was this diaspora of the Nephilim tribe. Is it possible that the Horites wound up by going across the Pacific Ocean and wound up in Paracas? We don't know, except that our deep dive with the DNA, and until Gaia TV sent their two archaeologists down, we were the only team that we are aware of. Now, there was a team at a very prestigious college that allegedly did DNA testing on the elongated skulls in Paracas. But when our archaeologist, Mondo Gonzalez, pressed the issue, the guy went completely black. He never responded to Mondo. So that's not sharing information. That's saying, oh yeah, we did a deep dive on the Paracas skulls. Nothing to see here, folks. And when Mondo just asked, well, how many elongated skulls did you actually test? Maybe none. Because the guy went dark. He never responded to Mondo. So we really don't know. We've looked at his work, but it doesn't seem like he did any testing on the elongated skulls. So we took 58 samples from 3 different museums. This guy was also tested. The cinnamon skull was also tested. And a preponderance of the evidence came back Middle Eastern, Eastern European. And that does rewrite history. Absolutely. And you remember that these elongated skull people, the Paracas people, show up around 3,000, 3,200 years ago. The date kind of is in flux. We're not exactly sure. But they don't look like the other indigenous cultures in Peru. They have certain techniques, like their pottery seems to be done on a wheel. The textiles have double the amount of threads per square inch as those found in the Middle East and Europe at the same time period, basically 3,000 years ago. The smoking gun here, in my opinion, is the placement of the foramen magnum. It is all the way to the occipital plate, to the rear of the skull. You will also notice that there are absolutely none. There are no sagittal suture coming from the frontal plate here. Let me get you a better shot of that. There should be a sagittal suture which wraps around like this which would divide the two parietal plates, separate them, and then wind up to the occipital plate in the rear. But that's not what we see. The smoking gun here, I'll say it again, and thank you, Rick Woodward, our anthropologist on our team. This foramen magnum is pushed all the way to the rear of the skull. It should be here. It should be right there in the center of the skull. Because if it was there, that would balance the skull. Should be right here. It's not. It's all the way to the occipital plate. So we believe that this thing is genetic. If you want to do a deep dive on it, you can go to our streaming site, rent the DNA film, or if you want the hard copy, lamarzulli.net. Folks, it's unbelievable. And we really are one of the few teams that actually did the DNA evidence and published it. And it's all in that film. You're going to want to get that. It's also in the On the Trail of a Nephilim book right there, where there was a very large volume, and I condensed that down. Mondo Gonzalez, who was our lead archaeologist that went down to Peru numerous times with me, and Mondo's article and report is in On the Trail of a Nephilim. So if you're interested, go to our website, lamarzulli.net. The holidays are coming again. It's one of my favorite times of the year. So that's a great book to give to a teenager or to someone who's groping with the biblical prophetic narrative. And, what about the flood of Noah? And what about these Nephilim creatures? You can check it out. Anyway, folks, I will be down at Lubbock, Texas. I'll be speaking Friday and Saturday. The Fellowship, Lubbock, Texas. Go to our website, lamarzulli.net, lamarzulli.net, and sign up today. Hope to see you there. Don't forget to go to our website also. Further evidence for Close Encounters. I will be reading about the Mothman on Friday. My encounter, my interview with Lawrence Gray, who's the only man that I'm aware of, man or woman, who actually had a victory over the entity that was mislabeled the Mothman. Was it a Mothman or was it a fallen angel? We'll get into that on Friday's show. Hope to see you there. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget, Part 6, our counter mutilation film, is available, as well as the 5-box DVD set. We are the only Christian ministry that I'm aware of. We will have 9 films out by the end of the year on the burgeoning UFO phenomena. Folks, this is the game changer. It really is. And number 7, 8, and 9 are in post-production. We hope to have them out. That'll put a wrap on it unless the Lord redirects our steps and has us go back and revisit something. But number 7 and 8 are on the Roswell incident. We do not believe for 1 second that it was a weather balloon. We've interviewed some incredible people, including Dr. Jesse Marcel Jr. We reenact that interview that I did with him, and Dr. Jesse Marcel's wife, Linda Marcel, for the first time ever on film, as well as Marcel's daughter, Denise. You're going to find this really interesting. We also go out to the debris field with 2 metal detectors, and what we find there is astonishing. I think I've whetted your appetite enough. Gil Zimmerman, my business partner in the On the Trail of a Nephilim series, and of course our UFO series, will be here on Saturday. Well, we're going to try to wrap up 7 and 8 in the UFO series, which leaves number 9. Josh Peck is working on the timeline. There are about 20 people that come on the record in that series. In number 9. So you're going to want to check that out. Anyway, folks, thanks so much for watching. Remember, there is a hidden history that's been deliberately obfuscated from the peoples of the world, and that's why I am on the trail of the Nephilim. And there it is. And that's why we're on the trail.